That brings us once again to the annual escapades of our legendary crack marketing team. Distracted briefly from their marathon hacky sack session, they stumbled into their minibus and wove a trail toward the Sierras, eventually rolling to a stop in a beautiful national park. Staring skyward up the towering trunks surrounding them, they felt a deep kinship with anything that could get that high. They knew they'd found their spot. Welcome to macOS Sequoia.
Welcome everyone. I hope everyone can hear me and that the live stream works. And yeah, welcome to Jesse's Flying and welcome to the 20,000 subscriber special. And I'm so overwhelmed about that. On Tuesday, my channel on YouTube reached 20,000 subscribers, and so I thought I might do a special about that. As you can see, the Mac Pro cheese grater is sitting here on my desk because I was just in the middle of creating the new video, the does it really make sense part 2A about the cheese grater, but I thought like 20,000 subscribers is such a special event that I have to do a special. And what could be better than talking about the upcoming macOS 15 Sequoia. And so in this video there's a lot of content and a lot of first-time content that I actually also don't know if it will work or not. So at first I tried to install the macOS Sequoia Beta on 2 different Macs. That's an iMac 2017 that's just here on the left side. You will see it in a minute. And on a MacBook Pro 2016. And while it is installing, let's talk about the officially supported Macs for macOS Sequoia, which Macs are not supported anymore. And let's identify the hardware that Apple still supports, like CPU generations, different GPU generations, and maybe we can draw a line back to what unsupported Macs might be quite easy for the developers of OpenCore and OpenCore Legacy Patcher to reintegrate and to enable on macOS Sequoia, if we have an idea what graphic and CPU and hardware drivers are still present in macOS Sequoia. And what are the chances for your unsupported Mac to be supported by OpenCore in fall or in winter when the developers had chance to test it. And then I'll give you a little bit more technical rundown how you yourself can use the latest OpenCore Legacy Patcher version that is in the Sequoia development phase, like those that are not already finished and packaged, how you can download them, install them, and maybe if you have a spare Mac sitting somewhere that you don't use for your everyday work, please don't do it. Sequoia is still in beta and OpenCore Legacy Patcher is not even ready yet, but where you can maybe try yourself if your Mac does run with Sequoia, what are the problems, and maybe give some feedback to the developers. And so there's a lot to do. I also would like to give a shout out to the Discord community on my Discord server. Let me just switch to Discord here. There are nearly 2,400 members already on Discord, and everyone who watches my videos, I try to answer the comments as quickly and as detailed as possible, but obviously that takes hours to answer. So the link is down in the video description for our Discord server, and if you like to join, it's free. There are so many people, and that is such a great community. And I really would, everyone who's already on Discord, I would really love to thank you that you're keeping all the discussions up, you're helping each other, and that is the place to be for special requests. Like, I have this and this software maybe that is not running, I have this weird error that is upcoming. So here it's more or less like a real-time chat. You can get some answers maybe, or help others get answers, so that we all can use our old Macs a little longer than Apple maybe intended to. So if you haven't yet, by the way, and if you're just looking down in the video description for the Discord link, I would recommend you subscribe my channel and click the bell for notification. As I said, does it really make sense to use a Mac Pro cheese grater in 2024? The part where we talk about upgrading the Mac Pro will be online soon, so you don't miss that. And you can check out my channel for all other videos that are maybe helpful for you and your old Mac. At the end of this live stream, I'll switch back to Discord and try to give some question and answers. We can just chit chat a little bit at the end of the live stream. But now let me switch the camera a little bit, let me just get it up here, and now you see my workplace. So let's switch up here. So that is the iMac 2017, and over here in that corner, that is the MacBook Pro 2016. I would like to install the Sequoia Beta on. And I use two different procedures. On the iMac, I already installed the Sequoia development version, the latest version of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and I just downloaded the Sequoia Beta installer. So we will just start the installer here with the latest OpenCore Sequoia installed, and see if that works as an update. Both of the Macs have the latest Sonoma installed, and let's see if that update works. And let's talk about all the other things while it's updating. On the MacBook Pro, I will use the USB method with the latest OpenCore Legacy Patcher from the Sequoia development. I created a USB drive, a bootable USB drive with the Sequoia Beta installer. And so we will try to install Sequoia Beta from a USB drive. The difference is that when this one is installed successfully, I don't know, I didn't try that before, so it's the first time for me as well. This one doesn't have any root patches installed when Sequoia Beta will come up. When you use the USB method, the root drivers should already be installed. But I don't know if the root drivers that are already still for macOS Sonoma will allow this MacBook Pro to boot into the Sequoia Beta. So we have both methods here. It might take about 45 minutes. And these are quite new unsupported Macs. I don't want to try that with like a 2012 or whatever MacBook Pro that's needed way more drivers. Just for your information, the iMac only has the Wi-Fi drivers that are root patched, nothing else for Sonoma. We'll see if that is enough for Sequoia. And the MacBook Pro 2016 has also the Wi-Fi drivers. It has the graphic drivers for the internal graphic card that is in the CPU, so the Intel UHD GPU. Also, it has a dedicated GPU, an AMD Radeon Pro 460. There are also drivers needed, and the fourth root patch driver that is needed is the T1 security chip. So we will see if that boots up. And so let's start it. Let's start with the iMac here. we start the installer, we agree to the terms, and we install it to the hard disk. And it starts. It says about 58 minutes remaining. So let's fire up the MacBook Pro, and I just get the camera a little bit closer that you can see that. There's the USB, and I just plug the power in that it doesn't die on my battery during the install. And I keep the Alt or Option key pressed while switching it on. That brings up the Apple boot selector. And there we can see we want to choose the EFI boot with the USB logo. So that is the latest OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and we choose install macOS Sequoia Beta install. That will bring up the recovery of macOS Sequoia Beta, and then we will select that. Just switch over to the iMac. This one says here about 55 minutes remaining, and it's working. So we will just let this sit here and see if it works. Sorry for all the camera movement, but it's a little bit close here, but there we go. And now you can see how I record everything also. So here on the MacBook Pro, let me get this a little bit closer that you can see it maybe a little bit better. There's the recovery. This one says install macOS Sequoia Beta. We say continue. And that might take a little while as it's off USB. We say continue to the install. Then we have the colored ball spinning here, and eventually it will come up with the agreement. It takes a while as it's loading all the data of the USB drive. There we go, agree, agree. We use the hard disk, we say continue, and this one says about 20 minutes remaining. All right, so as those two Macs are installing right now, let's talk a little bit about the supported Macs of macOS Sequoia and what Intel and AMD graphic hardware Apple still supports. Obviously all Apple silicon like M1, 2 and 3 and M4 chips when they will be released are obviously supported. So let's switch again cameras. All right, so, and I will just prepare my presentation so it's all live. Maybe I'll need a register, so if anyone is interested, I might need a register for all this. And let me switch to the presentation. There we go, and we start. So this is the official overview of Apple, which devices are obviously supported for macOS Sequoia. And when we check this out against Sonoma, you can see they just shuffled the position, but the only difference is the MacBook Air 2018 and 19 that is not supported anymore. All the other Mac models are all the same, like MacBook Pro from 2018 and younger, the Mac Pro 2019, the Mac Studio, obviously the Mac Mini from 2018 and later, the iMac 2019 and later, and the oldest supported model is the iMac Pro from 2017. And we will just see maybe why. I only can make some guesses. I'm not an Apple CEO or anything. He might answer that. But the MacBook Air 2018 and 19 is not supported anymore. That's the only Mac model that is dropped from Sonoma to Sequoia. And the reason for that, as my guess, might be that it is due to the 8th gen Amber Lake CPU that it's inside, that is only a 2-core CPU. And that might be 2 less cores, 2 less power for Sequoia, and especially for all the Apple AI features that are announced with that macOS. And so the Intel 8th generation CPUs are basically Coffee Lake, and in a minute I'll give you an overview so you better understand all this family naming from Intel. It's quite complicated. But this 8th generation Intel CPU is a Amber Lake. That is the mobile version, so the power saving version of Coffee Lake. And so this might be the reason that the MacBook Air is simply not powerful enough to support Sonoma. And that might be a first hint for your unsupported Mac. If you have a 2-core CPU and maybe it's already a mobile CPU, that it might not be a good idea to install Sonoma or even then Sequoia on it, as Apple drops this MacBook Air here. So officially no MacBook Air 2018 and 19 for Sequoia. The oldest supported Mac is the iMac Pro 2017, and this one has a Intel Xeon processor. These are server processors. That is like the high-end version of the regular i3, i5, i7, i9 Intel CPUs. That's Intel Xeon 6th generation Skylake. That's quite an old CPU family. We'll come to the families in a minute. But as it's a server and high-end processor, it has at least 8 cores, 16 threads. So each core can handle 2 threads simultaneously, and it goes up to 18 cores. And that is quite powerful. And I think it was quite expensive 2017 that Apple still supports this high-end iMac. And it's obviously the only iMac Pro that that Apple ever released. The iMac Pro has an AMD Radeon Pro Vega 56 graphic card. We will talk about the graphic card and the different families later also. That is called GCN 5th gen, so that is Graphics Core Next 5th generation. That is the Vega family from AMD. We will need that info afterwards. And the other Pro Mac is obviously the Mac Pro 2019, the Mac Pro 7 one as it's called. That is the reincarnation of the cheese grater that is here. And that also has an Intel Xeon processor, but it has the 7th generation. The other one was 6th generation. This is 7th generation, called Cascade Lake. Also at least 8 cores, 16 threads, going up to 28 cores and 56 threads. Graphic card wise, this also has an AMD Radeon Pro, but this time a Vega 2. That's a higher version of the Vega 56 or Vega 64, but it's also Graphics Core Next 5th generation Vega. And in the beginning, Apple also sold the AMD Radeon Pro 580X. That is just a family older. That's Graphics Core Next 4th generation, the Polaris family. These infos are quite important for your unsupported Mac and maybe for this one afterwards. So there's an update. Let me just quit this and let me just switch to full screen that you can see it a little bit better. As you can see here, the MacBook Pro already rebooted, and below here it says about 28 minutes remaining. So this is the second screen during updating, while the iMac also says about 28 minutes remaining, but obviously this is just in the in the installer on the Mac OS screen. All right, so let's continue with the different Macs. So to understand all those family stuff of the Intel CPUs, let's have a quick rundown about all the different families. And if you hear the fan revving, that's the MacBook Pro here. As it's installing, the fan is revving up, so sorry for the sound. In 2008, Intel introduced this Core generation. That was the first generation, called Nehalem. That was in the Mac Pro Cheese Grater 2009. The Mac Pro 4.1 had an Intel Nehalem family processors, Intel Xeon. And afterwards, in 2010, there was a die shrink. That is just if they have a new procedure how to make chips smaller, to have each transistor smaller. They shrink the die, so with the same size of CPU, they can just add more stuff into the CPU because it's packed tighter. That was a die shrink of the Nehalem that was called Westmere, but it was still first generation. And the Mac Pro 5.1 from 2010 to 12 has Intel Xeon processors that are based on the Westmere family. That is the reason, and you will see that if you haven't yet, subscribe. That is the reason why the Mac Pro 4.1 needs different CPUs, and they have to be delidded, so you have to remove the heat spreader because it's just Nehalem CPUs, or if you use Westmere on an Intel Mac Pro 5.1, where you don't have to take the heat spreader off. All right, in 2011, Intel then introduced the second generation, that was Intel Sandy Bridge. Then in 2012, third generation, Intel Ivy Bridge, and that went into the Mac Pro 2013, the trash can. That has an Intel Xeon CPU, only one, there's no dual CPU setup for that. That is based on Ivy Bridge generation. But then Intel introduced the Haswell family in 2013, the fourth generation Intel chips, and that was the first that had AVX2 instructions. So AVX is Advanced Vector Extension version 2.0, and you can see that the first extension was the SSE 4.2, then there was Intel AVX, and then there was AVX2. Why do I talk about the AVX? The AVX is needed by macOS since Ventura. For instance, for the graphic drivers, for the AMD graphic driver stack. So if you don't have a CPU that has the AVX2 instruction set, and as you just saw, both Mac Pro 2012 Cheese Grater and older and 2013 Trash Can don't have AVX2. So that is one of the big hurdles that the developers of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher have to take to re-implement the graphic drivers. For instance, for the RX 580 that I already have in my Mac Pro here, with a version that is not required AVX2, like from Monterey, for instance. And that will be the same issue with macOS Sequoia. They have to re-implement the old graphic drivers that are not dependent on AVX2 to make an RX 580 or a Vega or whatever graphics card work in that Mac Pro Cheese Grater, and to make the AMD FirePro D300 or D500 or D700 of the Mac Pro 2013 work again in Sequoia. even though Sequoia has graphic drivers for the RX 580, as we just saw, because they sold the Mac Pro 2019 still with that card with Graphics Core Next 4th generation. So let's continue with the Intel CPU families. We were with the 4th generation Haswell. Intel then in 2015 introduced Broadwell, 5th generation, then Skylake, that was also in 2015, just half a year afterwards, 6th generation. And this one, for instance, is in the iMac Pro 2017. It's a Xeon processor based on the Skylake family. And afterwards, in 2016, there was Kaby Lake, that was the 7th generation. Then there was Coffee Lake, and that was 8th and 9th generation, because Intel in 2018 introduced the 8th generation just as a Coffee Lake refresh. And afterwards, they had the 10th generation Comet Lake, and that is the last generation of Intel chips that Apple uses. Update. Let me just go off the slide and we can just switch back here. There's an update with the iMac here that says, okay, it will restart automatically. It did that. And so you can see there's the progress bar down here, and we'll see how the iMac will handle the update. The MacBook Pro just went black again after the progress bar that says so and so many minutes remaining. Let me just check this out here. We have the macOS installer that switches on automatically, and we have another progress bar. And let's see if this goes through. So we have at the moment both Macs with the progress bar around 1/3. And by the way, if you have a Mac that's updating and that is stuck in the progress bar about 1/3, you will find here on my channel, and it's also linked down in the video description, 2 videos if your progress bar is stuck. Oh, we have another update. It goes round and round. Here you can see that the OpenCore boot selector was on, and it already showed macOS Sequoia Beta as a selection. It did that automatically. So let's see if the iMac boots up with the Sequoia Beta. The MacBook Pro also does some progress, so we're around half of the progress bar right now. This one also makes progress, so we're not stuck yet. That's a good thing. And we can check if those 2 Macs will make it into the Sequoia Beta. All right. We were talking about the different Intel generations, and there we can see the MacBook Pro also has the OpenCore boot selector with Sequoia Beta. Let's see if this one boots up maybe. Completely. We have a progress bar. And sometimes you just have to give it some time. Sometimes it takes some time, but this looks good. The progress bar is nearly complete. Let's see if it makes it to the login screen. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. It starts flickering a little bit. And you can see the iMac just rebooted again. So let's do its job, and we will see if they will make it into the beta. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about the official Macs, so we have an idea about the hardware that is supported. So the first Mac that is still supported Intel-wise is the Mac Mini 2018. And this one, as you can see in the top right corner, has an Intel 8th generation Coffee Lake. So it's not the mobile version as in the MacBook Air 2018-19. That was the mobile version of the 8th gen Amber Lake, if you remember. This is Coffee Lake, so that's a desktop version, and that is still supported, at least 4 cores. Even the i3 has it. And it has no dedicated graphic card. It has just the Intel UHD 630 that is a part of the CPU, the integrated graphics card. Next is the iMac 2019 that also has an Intel 8th generation Coffee Lake, and it's nearly the same processors. If you go back, it's an i3 8100, i5 8500 and i7 8700B. The iMac has an i3 8100, i5 8500 and i7 8700 without the B and some more, and it even has an i9 9900K. Graphic card wise, it has an AMD Radeon Pro 555X, 560X, 570X, 575X and 580X. That is all graphics Core Next 4th generation Polaris. We have an update after 2 more reboots. Let me just switch it off so you can see that. I really need a register here. Someone. Okay. So here we see it did some reboots, and now it has the percentage. 21% complete, 22% complete. That is a new screen that really looks promising, that the MacBook Pro will make it through the Sequoia install. The iMac is nearly done with its regular progress bar. Let's see if this one reboots and goes to the bar with a percent. Oh, there is the reboot, as I just was talking about it. There is the reboot. And so next should be the progress bar with a percentage below. There you can see it's just one option available in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher boot selector, that is Sequoia. And so let's see if that progress bar just makes it around 1/3, and then the percentage should come up down here. And the MacBook Pro is with 98% completed. So they are working through the progress. All right. Oh, another chime for the MacBook Pro. Another reboot. I don't know why I did all the presentation. That goes way quicker than I expected. So we see Macintosh HD, and the installed Sequoia Beta is the other option, as the USB drive is still inserted. But let's see if this one now boots through. And maybe we're at the welcome screen with Sequoia Beta. Let's check it out. This looks very promising. Okay. That looks still like the regular screen of Sonoma, but that might just be because it just maybe get the settings. There we go. Select your Wi-Fi network, and that maybe won't work because you can see the screen flickering also, because the root patches are maybe not working, because that flickering is when you don't have a graphic driver installed. And it's looking for networks, but the other root patch that is required is a Wi-Fi, legacy Wi-Fi root patch. So we maybe just say my computer does not connect to the internet, Let me just put the camera here so you can see it a little bit better. Analytics, okay, continue. And that looks like macOS Sequoia. There we go. Awesome. But as we can see, there is no Wi-Fi, so it doesn't find any Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi drivers are missing, and that flickering is due to missing graphic drivers. All right, at least we made that. This one made it. And the iMac is about 7 minutes remaining, so it's still in that minutes boot screen, not in the percentage boot screen. But let's just maybe finish the presentation, then we can handle the other Macs, and maybe the iMac is done by that. All right, so let's continue here. We've been with the iMac 2019 and the Radeon Pro Polaris GPUs. The iMac 2020 is also officially supported. That has an Intel 10th generation Comet Lake i5, i7 or i9, and as a GPU, that's the second important thing, an AMD Radeon Pro 5300, 5500, 5700, and that is one generation newer. That is RDNA, Radeon DNA first generation, called Navi family. Same 10th generation Intel chips are in the MacBook Air 2020, but that's now called not Comet Lake as with the iMac, that's now called Ice Lake, because these are the mobile versions of the 10th generation, and the MacBook Air doesn't have a dedicated graphics card, it has an integrated GPU Iris Plus. The MacBook Pro in all its variants from 2018 and 19 has, and I just try to sum it up on 2 slides, it has either an Intel 8th generation Comet Lake with an integrated GPU like an UHD 630, 645, 655, or an AMD Radeon Pro 555 or 560X, that is 4th generation Polaris. We had that a lot in the last other supported Macs. And we have 9th generation Coffee Lake refresh, and we have 10th generation mobile chip Ice Lake. Also, there are some MacBook Pros that have an AMD Radeon Vega 16 or 20. That is Graphic Core Next 5th generation Vega, as we already talked about that. And an AMD Radeon Pro 5300, 5500, 5600. That is RDNA 1st Gen Navi. So, for everyone who just gets confused with all these names, AMD had some families and generations. Graphics Core Next 1st Gen was introduced in 2012. That was the Radeon 7750 or 770 and so on, and the Radeon R5, R7 and R9. For instance, the Mac Pro 2012, my Mac Pro here, came with a Radeon HD 7750. So then comes the 2nd generation of Graphics Core Next. That was also introduced between 2012 and 2015. That was 7790 and Radeon R5, R7 and R9, but in a higher version. Then they have Graphic Core Next 3rd Gen 2014. That was Radeon R9 and the 200 and 300 series and the Fury. And then in 2016 to 17 they had the 4th Gen, that was Radeon RX 400 and RX 500, like this RX 580 that we have in here. And for that generation, Apple obviously has drivers in Sequoia, but right, you just heard it, these drivers require AVX2. And then there was the 5th generation in 2017, that was the Radeon RX Vega 56, 64 and the Radeon 7. where there are also obviously drivers in Sequoia. So these are the Radeon drivers that are supported by Apple. And to have it on one screen, to have a better comparison, those two MacBook Pros that are here are just a comparison, those two slides of all different MacBook Pro versions. We have Radeon Pro 555 or 560, the same in the iMac 2090, Radeon Pro 555, 560, but also 570, 575, and 580. All graphics core next 4th Gen Polaris. Same with the Mac Pro 2019, Radeon Pro 580X. The Mac Pro also had a Radeon Pro Vega 2, that is graphics core next 5th generation. That is also in the iMac Pro, but just as a Vega 56. And that is also in a MacBook Pro as a Vega 16 or Vega 20. And then in the MacBook Pro we have RDNA 1, 5300M, 5500M, 5600M, the same as in the 2020 iMac, Radeon Pro 5300 without the M, 5600 as an XT version, and 5700 and XT, all RDNA 1. And so integrated graphic wise, we have a UHD 630 in the 8th generation Coffee Lake, same as with the MacBook Pro, also in the Mac Mini 2018 and in the MacBook Pro, UHD 630, but we also have a UHD 645 and 655, and we have an Iris Plus when you have the 10th generation chip, same as with the MacBook Air that has a 10th generation chip with an Intel Iris Plus. All right. That was all about my presentation, and the iMac here is about a minute remaining, so it seems that the iMac is done soon. And as you might have already seen in my videos or might know, is that whenever you do an update of a macOS, you need to reinstall the root patches, because OpenCore has two parts. The first one is the OpenCore bootloader that just fakes a supported Mac and enables macOS to install Sequoia on an unsupported Mac and to have the boot selector what you want to boot. But whenever Apple drops drivers out of macOS and you want to use the old hardware, you need the old drivers reintegrated. And that is the second part, that is the root patch, because the root patch adds missing drivers into the newer macOS. But as you've seen with AVX2, these drivers you cannot just take the old drivers maybe from Monterey and put it into Sequoia. You have to change them to work in Sequoia, for instance. And good news, there is Sequoia on my iMac 2017. Analytics, okay, welcome to Mac. And there we go. And the same problem here, we don't have any Wi-Fi, no networks. It doesn't find any networks even if it's on. And that is the only, as I said, the only root patch that was required for Sonoma, for the iMac, was the legacy Wi-Fi, because it has an older Wi-Fi module where Apple dropped support. But both of them started Sequoia with the latest OpenCore Legacy Patcher version in the Sequoia development version. And I'd like to show you on my Mac here how you can download the latest version. There are some tricks to make it run, and then how you can use it to download the Sequoia Beta, because with a regular OpenCore Legacy Patcher, it won't show the Sequoia Beta downloads, because it only shows Sonoma and Ventura and Monterey. And let's talk a little bit about the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, what you find on that website. And therefore, let me just switch a little bit the camera here. Let me just switch to the website. There we go. All right. There we are. Okay, I hope you all can see the website here. All the links are down in the video description. If you want to go there, you can just simply Google them as well. That should be no problem. That is the OpenCore Legacy Patcher GitHub repository, where you can find all the info. And as OpenCore Legacy Patcher is an open source project, you can read all the code that the developers write. So if you have any security issues or concerns, or you think they might program a backdoor or virus or whatever into it, obviously you have to be able to read code. But there are a lot of people that can read code, that that check that code, so you can be assured that they don't do any stupid things with that. As you can see, 12,000 people start this, so they bookmark it to find it, and 633 people are watching the code changes. So that should give you an idea about that. And what you can find on this website is, at first, you have the README down here, where the developers describe their project, noteworthy features, getting started, support, and so on. And that is one of the first things I'd like to mention. They do have an own OpenCore Patcher Paradise Discord server. So obviously I would love to see you on my Discord server, but there's another one that has way more users, and you can find many infos over there. And obviously you have some credits who helps and who develops everything, like all the guys, and that is also one part that we talk about later, some other YouTube channels and some other guys that really help that community develop everything, test everything. You can see DOS Dude 1, you can see Mr. Macintosh, they also have YouTube channels you really check out, you really should check out. So you have all this. And the most important part here is the changelog.md. If you just click that, you will see the changelog, and this is version 1.6.0. that is not yet released. That is a work in progress, but you can see what the developers are working on right now, so what will be in version 1.6.0. A lot of that stuff is like behind the curtains, like in the background. They set some properties, they move to auto-generated scripts and everything. That's nothing that helps you as a user. They resolved a crash down here, that is good. But otherwise, with the 1.6.0, there's nothing like new features or nothing important for you as an end user that is added yet. So that might be the reason, when we just go back one page, that the latest release that you can see here on the right side is still 1.5.0, because there's no need to release a new version when there's no bug fixing or no crashes fixed. Or, that's the most important info, version 1.5.0 works fine with the latest macOS Sonoma 14.6.1. So you can check out what's going on there. But for us, the important thing is that up here at the top, you see a branch. That is the main official branch. If you click that, you'll find some other branches where Yasni is one of the developers. They just try different things, and maybe they just skip it and delete it afterwards because they tried something, or with that branch they merge the branch, so they merge the work they are doing right now in the different branch into the main. And there's one branch here that is Sequoia development, so let's switch to that, and then you can see that looks nearly like the other page, but you see this branch is 47 commits ahead of main, so they have 47 new updates already committed to that branch that is ahead of the main 1.5.0. And here you can see how they are working. You see what changes were done like 3 months ago, 2 weeks ago, 4 days ago, and what they did. Okay, so here you can see the work in progress. But there is no release version that you can simply download and install of that. Obviously, be careful, okay? That is work in progress. It might break everything, because if they implement a new feature that is not working yet, it's already in that code, you download it, but it's not working. So every time you download this, as I show you in a minute, be careful. That should be a Mac you can just play around with, like those 2 Macs that I tried it. But here, there's a file that's called source.md. If you click that, the developers describe how to run that from source. At first, just use the regular version. Okay, we can check the changelog. We already did that. Please do not share any links to these binaries. Okay, so don't link some files directly, because people will download it, everything breaks, and that doesn't make any sense. Okay, and if you want to install this, they describe how to do that. So let's just do it. Okay, I have the terminal up here, and the first thing you have to do is that you install Python. Okay, Python is the language that this OpenCore Legacy Patcher is written in. So let's just go back from the terminal. We just open up Python. Link is also down in the video description. Python download for macOS, and the latest is Python 3.12.5. So you have to download down here macOS 64-bit universal installer, and you will install that Python to your computer. Straightforward, it's just a regular installer, and you have it installed. The next thing I recommend, and I did that with both my Macs, is that you go also from Dortania to the KDK support package page. Link is also down in the video description. And so, okay, what is a KDK? The KDK is the kernel debug kit from Apple. Obviously, this is an official Apple download, but only for developers. So you cannot download it directly from Apple if you're not a paying Apple developer. And so Dortania just keeps this repository here with every version of macOS and every version of macOS beta versions. Okay, so why? The reason is up here with macOS 13 Ventura. Apple dropped on-disk kernel binaries. All right. On-disk kernel binaries are like driver files or like driver supporting files that you need to install the root patch. Okay, so we talked about the root patch already. To re-implement some drivers like Wi-Fi or graphic drivers, you need these files, and they have been in the macOS kernel up until Monterey. Since Ventura, Apple just got rid of that from the kernel, and so you have to install the KDK to have that files available somewhere in macOS to install the root patches. And the root patches are mainly needed for all the drivers that are dropped, but the KDK files are nearly all exclusively needed for installing AMD graphic drivers. So I had a lot of comments in my videos that say, oh, there's an update of macOS, but the OpenCore Legacy Patcher doesn't download the KDK. Can I install the update? Can I install the root patches? Yes, in most of the cases, you don't need the KDK. For instance, with my unsupported Macs here, the only ones that needs the KDK is the Mac Pro 5.1 because it has an AMD Radeon RX 580, the Mac Pro 6.1, the trash can, because it has an AMD Fire Pro D300, and the MacBook Pro 2016, where I just installed Sequoia on, because it has an AMD Radeon Pro 460 graphics card. All other MacBook Pro 2012, it has an NVIDIA graphics card. No KDK. MacBook Air, no dedicated graphic card at all. It's just an integrated graphic card, no KDK. The iMac here, although it has an AMD graphics card, that is so new, so we don't need to re-implement old drivers because just macOS has still the graphic drivers, and it has AVX2, so no problem here. So no KDK needed. And bottom line, if you're installing an update and the OpenCore Legacy Patcher doesn't pop up and say, oh, I'm downloading the KDK, don't worry, it seems your Mac doesn't need the KDK. For Sequoia, just as a preventive action, I just installed the KDKs on both of them before I started the update. Back to the website here, you can find, here is just a description how you can use it, but here on the right side, releases, you click on releases, and then you see the kernel debug kit. For instance, this is already Sequoia 15.1 with a different build. That was the one that I installed right now. It was macOS Sequoia 15.0 with the build 24A 5320A. So every beta, like every week or two, there's a new build of the beta version that gets such a number, and then you will find the KDK package here that is according to that number. But that is all Sequoia. If you're going down a little bit, you will find there macOS 14.6. That is also very long number, and very long numbers mean that is like a beta version. There we go, macOS 14.6.1, that is only 2 weeks ago, build 21G39. Short numbers are official release versions. And as you can see, 14.6 was 21G80 and not G93. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We say, okay, that's going to be a little bit complicated. But if you download a new update, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher will be notified, will download the appropriate KDK while you are updating your Mac. Otherwise, if you're downloading, if you click on download macOS, in brackets behind the version, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher shows this number also. So if you're in doubt, just download the KDK with that same number, install it up front, and then do the update. All right, that about the KDK. So on both of the Macs, I have installed Python and I have installed the KDK for the beta. And now let's go into the terminal again. And I'm more or less doing that, what the developers write here in their source MD of the Sequoia development patch. Okay, once Python is installed, open terminal and run the following. That is what we'll do. The first one we need, and let me just go through that things here, is that you clone the GitHub repository on your PC. You just copy, you just download it, okay? If you type this command and you don't have Xcode installed, Xcode is the programming software suite from Apple, it will ask that you install the command line tools, will pop up, just install the command line tools and then try again, because that command git requires these command line tools. What does this mean, what we write here? Obviously here in the back, that is just the address of the GitHub repository, okay? github.com Dortania OpenCore Legacy Patcher.git. Here we say, okay, git clone, that means download that repository onto your hard disk. But we add a feature. We slash say -b, that means branch. We talked about the branches, main or Sequoia development. Download the branch Sequoia development from OpenCore Legacy Patcher Git. If we say yes, it will just start downloading everything the developers have uploaded into the Sequoia development branch up until now. So be careful, if they implement a new feature that is still broken, you will download the broken feature and it might not work. So as you can see, that is around 65 megabytes on download, shouldn't take that long. And the next thing that they have, let's just go back here. We are in the Sequoia development branch. They have a requirement.txt, and that say what else they need to run OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Now, we've been in source MD. That was where all the info was in. So let's go back to the terminal. It downloaded everything. So let's check. First thing now, it created, let's go here, in documents. No, it's not in documents. It's in this one here. All right. In your user directory, this one is called Mac Mini 2020. You have applications, desktop, documents, and so on. And they just added a folder that's called OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And if you look in here, let me just enlarge it a little bit. You have all the files, source MD, requirements, txt, and all the folders that are in here. There are the folders, there are all the files. So it just downloaded the whole repository. Okay, so now we go into that directory. So cd change directory OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And if we type ls, it's just listing everything that is in here. There you can see the folders and the files. So now we need a part of Python that is called pip, Python installer, to install -r, install requirements that are mentioned in the requirements.txt file. Okay, that's what it says. Python installer, please install requirements that are mentioned in here. So now it downloads all different stuff. And as I did this already, it says requirement already satisfied because it already has downloaded everything while I was preparing that video. With your computer, it might take a little longer. So now there's one more step, as Apple always says, there's one more thing that I have to explain what we have to do to be able to run the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. The OpenCore Legacy Patcher, let me just make this a little bit smaller. The OpenCore Legacy Patcher, maybe if you're used it a little longer, the older versions always came up with enter your password, enter your password, enter your password. And that happened 3 to 4 times while updating and installing everything. So the developers came up with a plan to install a privileged helper tool. A helper tool that already has administration and root access privileges. So you don't have to enter your password like 3, 4, 5 times. And you only have to enter your password once. And this privileged helper tool is when you go to your hard disk, let me just enlarge the buttons a little bit, into the library, there is a folder, let me just sort it a little bit, that is called privileged helper tools. There we go, privileged helper tools. If we go in here, we have 2 privileged helper tools in my case here. One, COM, that means it's a program. Crystal idea, that's a developer. Max fan controls, SMC write. So I have Mac fan controls installed, and to be able to run in the background and to run up here in the top right corner, it needs a privileged helper tool. And the second one is a program, COM, Dortania, the developer, OpenCore Legacy Patcher privileged helper tool. That is in here. The problem is, if you install such a privileged helper tool and you give them root access rights, for instance, that Max fan control is quite a common tool. If you would like to program a malicious software, you could just try if the user has the Max fan control privileged helper tool installed that already has root access, and now you send commands to that tool that it does without asking the user to enter your password or to use the fingerprint or whatever. That would be a security issue, right? So what they did is that the helper tools only accept commands from a software that has accordingly a key that is appropriate. So a secret key, if the software knows that key, the helper tool does the command. If it doesn't know the key, it doesn't do anything. And obviously the OpenCore Legacy Patcher has such a key pair for that privileged helper tool. But as we like to use the development version of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we have to disable that. So we have to create another helper tool that doesn't require that key. Obviously, this is a security issue, so maybe be careful. It should only be a Mac where you can play around with, because any other tool that knows that there's the privileged helper tool of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher installed in that debug version, as it's called, could send any commands, and the helper tool will do those commands without asking you for a password. But right now for Sequoia, we have to do that. And how are we going to do that? We just go, if we just say list. Let me just clear that a little bit. So we are now in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher folder. We just go into the folder CI tooling. And if we list that, there's a folder privileged helper tool. So we say cd change directory privileged helper tool. And there are only 4 files in there. And the command we need now is that we, let me check, make debug. That's the command, make debug. And that creates the privilege helper file in a debug version that doesn't require the signature. And then we have to install that. Let me check where I got it. There. We have to install this privileged helper tool to the library where we just have been and give it root access, administrator rights. So that is why we call sudo, that is super user do, that is an admin command, and afterwards it will just ask me for my password, and that is the only one we enter the password to give the privileged helper tool the root access. Sudo bash install sh. Install sh is just a script that installs it. There it asks for my password, and now it is installed into the library. Whew. A lot of technical stuff, right? If you want to know about that, because when we go into the source file here with the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, it just doesn't mention that, okay? You say, okay, git clone OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we had that, but obviously we added -b Sequoia development because we wanted the developer version. If you do this just like this, or if you add, that's the same as if you would add -b main, then you would just download the latest main version. Then we had the pip3 install R requirements. We did that, okay? And now it says we can run the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. No, we cannot. We need the other different version of the helper tool. And where do we find something about this? Let's go into the same folder we just did. We just go into the CI tooling folder, and then we go into the folder privileged helper tool, and there's also a README file. So I don't give you any commands that are very dangerous or something. You find all the description here in the README. So the architecture is as such: the main application will send arguments to the privileged helper tool to execute. The helper tool will check the code signature of the application to ensure it's signed by Dortania. If you download a release version, it's signed and it's safe. And then the privileged helper tool will execute the command and return the output to the main application. So, as you see, running from source will lack Dortania's code signature. You will need to disable code signature verification. We did that with make debug. That was the first command we did. And there are some security considerations. As I said, that is quite insecure, as now the tool will accept commands from every other tool. And the other one was just the installation into the library. Okay, so now when we're back in the terminal, we say change directory space ... that goes one folder upwards again. And now we are back in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher folder. Now it's just the command. Let me just go through here. Python 3, that is the Python language we just installed, OpenCore-patcher-GUI.command. And if you do that, you see the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.6.0 nightly build. So that is not the final 1.60 release version, it's a work in progress version. And as we downloaded the Sequoia development branch, that is the Sequoia version, but you cannot read it somewhere. All right. The good thing is if you did that and you say create macOS installer, download macOS installer, it will list also macOS Sequoia Beta, and as you maybe can see here, it's 24A5320A from 13th of August. That is the one that I downloaded. You can download it, or you can just create an USB installer that I did. But obviously you cannot build and install OpenCore, as this is a Mac Mini 9.1 M1, Apple Silicon M1 that I'm running right now, that is officially supported Mac, so you cannot install OpenCore. Either you go into the settings and you say that, where is it? Let me just check that. Secure boot model, no. Here. Allow spoofing native Macs. Then you could install the OpenCore Legacy Patcher in a natively supported. Allow native models in general here is another one. So you can just install OpenCore on a supported model, which doesn't make any sense. But if you change the model maybe to the MacBook Pro 13.3, that was the one that I have here, and you say return, now you can build and install OpenCore, obviously, and you can do some post-install root patching. I don't know if they will work or if that breaks everything. So let's switch back to all those two Macs running the Sequoia Beta right now. And let's see if we can maybe install the root patches also, if we can get Wi-Fi working or if it breaks everything. We can see that. All right, so let me just close this. You can ignore that. And all right, I will get the camera here to the other one. All right, so that you can see what I'm doing here on the iMac. All right, so there's no Wi-Fi, but otherwise it should work. And the first thing I'd like to do, let me just turn this a little bit around. I have the video proc converter. I don't know if I have the link down in the video description, but otherwise if you just search for video proc converter, that is just the shareware version. So we say remind me later, we don't need it to activate. That's the video proc converter. I don't know if you can see that. Let me just get a little bit in here. All right. So, but with the video proc converter, if you go to settings and you have a general hardware accelerate engine, you go to options, you can check if your graphic acceleration works. Right now it says here H264, and below here it says HEVC. If you just click refresh, then it checks your hardware, your GPU and the GPU drivers, if they allow graphic acceleration. And you can see this one says Intel Core i5 3.4 gigahertz graphics is Intel HD graphics KBL. So that's a weird description for the AMD Radeon that's in here. But you say software 15.00 24A5320A, that is Sequoia Beta, and it says H264 is max resolution 4K is hardware acceleration available. Let's check for HEVC, and then you see, okay, it's checking everything. So hardware acceleration seems to work. Yes, HEVC also 4K available. And that looks good for graphic acceleration, obviously, as the only root patch that was required in Sonoma was Wi-Fi. And you see here, there's no Wi-Fi yet. So this is, yeah, the same issue as with Sonoma. Everything is working in Sequoia, as it seems, but I don't have any Wi-Fi, so I cannot check anything on the websites. Let's see if we can, no, we don't want the video proc converter, that was wrong, quit. Let's see if we can maybe install some root patches. That would be awesome if we could install the Wi-Fi root patch, if that would be still working. As you can see maybe here, in the home folder iMac 2017, there is the folder OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And so we can just go into the terminal. All right, we can go into the terminal and we start I installed the same here on this iMac as with the other computer that I just showed you, but it's kind of hard to see with the camera directly filming the screen. So let me just go into the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and we start the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. There we go. That is the same that we just downloaded on the other computer. And now let's see what the post-install root patch says. It says available patches for your system, modern wireless. That is exactly the same that was required for Sonoma with that iMac. Let's see. I installed the KDK up front, so that shouldn't be an issue. But let's see if that either works or breaks the whole Sequoia install. Start root patching. Let's see if that might work. Okay. It says determining required patch set for Darwin 24. Capable of patcher. Patcher support package resources missing. Patcher likely corrupted. Okay. It is missing some resources. Okay, so this didn't work yet. There are some resources missing. Let me just check if maybe the USB version of the MacBook Pro 2016 works. Okay, let's go here and we go into the macOS Sequoia Beta. That looks good. Go to the home folder. Okay. I think I need my USB drive where I have the OpenCore Legacy Patcher installed with. So we don't need that USB drive anymore. Can eject that. All right. Okay. I cannot run the OpenCore Legacy Patcher here as I didn't install it yet, but let's just go crazy and try if maybe the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Okay. Good thing though, I forgot that. What happened is that when you do the USB install with OpenCore Legacy Patcher, it already patches the root patches and it already adds the OpenCore Legacy Patcher into your install. So as I just went into the Launchpad for the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, it has the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.6.0 nightly installed here. Let's see if the root patches, okay, available patches, this one needs more. It has the AMD Legacy Graphic Core Next, Intel Skylake, that is the integrated graphic card of the CPU, modern wireless and T1 security chip. So, but it says cannot patch due to the following reasons: unsupported host OS. So the OpenCore Legacy Patcher prevents to install the root patches on an unknown macOS. So that might be one of the safety measures of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher team, that they prevent you to install the root patches on a unsupported, still yet unsupported macOS version. So with both the computers, I cannot install the root patches right now, and therefore maybe in another video let me try to add some missing resources, or maybe to disable that sanity check before the root patches, so we can try to install the root patch here. Maybe just the wireless patch is the same as within Sonoma. Otherwise, the developers will do their thing, and the first one that will be officially supporting Sequoia obviously will have the root patches available, maybe not for all models, but as we saw, there's one hardware package that Apple still supports with Sequoia, as there's only the MacBook Air not supported anymore, but we have Graphics Core Next 5th, 4th generation and RDNA 1, and we have Intel, regular Intel chips 8th, 9th and 10th generation, and we have Xeon processors 6th and 7th generation. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that live stream up until here. It was quite technical in some parts, but I'd like to give you an overview about Sequoia. At least you could already check out the very nice background of macOS Sequoia, like here on the iMac. And I really would love if you subscribe my channel, follow me for more videos, maybe a follow-on of this one here, to try to install some root patches already in the Sequoia Beta. About the Mac Pro 2012 cheese grater, how to upgrade. I have all my upgrade cards in the back. Let's talk about upgrading it. Let's talk about different kind of graphic cards, different kind of Wi-Fi cards and USB cards, but all with a reasonable price tag. Okay, I know you can just plug an NVMe drive in here with like 4 times RAID NVMe, 8 terabytes, whatever. You can spend a fortune for that, but let's talk about reasonable updates, and if it makes sense to still use that 12-year-old or 13 or 14 or 15-year-old if you have a 2009 version hardware. But now I really would love to go to Discord, and maybe we can have a Q&A, we can have a chat with Discord. If you have some questions, I would love to hear your feedback on this video. Let me just switch this again to Discord. All right, so let me maybe I move myself down in this corner here for the question and answers. Yeah, I'm here. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you have other stuff we'd like to talk about, I'm here on Discord. Welcome everyone. Hit me, give me some question and answers, and join the Discord server. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, just let's talk Apple, let's talk unsupported Macs. I will quit the stream, and I'll be here another half an hour or hour on Discord to discuss everything. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.